Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of On the Line. And as usual, I'm joined by my co host, Jonathan. Jonathan, say hello to everybody.
How's it going, guys?
So, it's been an eventful week. I'm not even going to get started because you wouldn't believe me if I told you. But, um, like usual, we usually have some topics that we discuss prior and then we come up with. This week, I have two people emailing me about the same subject, which is recovering from an injury and being able to shoot again. Now, I'm going to try to be nice about this. A lot of times, I've mentioned this before, what I think about certain people, how they're pulling a lot of weight, and lots of weight, bad form equals disaster. Some people invite these troubles on their own. But sometimes it just happens because of years of abuse that you do to yourself, and it just catches up with you. Sometimes that catching up can be a lot quicker depending on what you're doing. Jonathan, you see this all the time, don't you?
All the time. I actually was just talking to a friend of mine last night about it at the archery shop. Um, he messed up the muscles all here.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't because of archery. It was actually because of a chainsaw accident. Um, and he's good now, but he's still struggling with those muscles.
Well, I've seen every type of injury you can think of, from bad shoulders to bad elbows to fingers that get messed up. Don't get me started. Wrists, basically anywhere that you're putting pressure is subject to really getting hurt if your form is terrible or if you are overbowing yourself. And I guess the before we go down the path of how do you know if something's starting to go wrong or what do you do when you eventually get there, we should probably talk about what overbowing is. Um, what do you tell people it is when we say that they're overbowed?
Too much weight. Uh, too much weight of the draw. Too much weight on the bow. Um, as in total, like the total weight of the bow. Especially for kids, I see kids um, wanting to be a big boy or a big girl, and they're trying to hold their bow out, and they can't hold all that weight long well, so they struggle with that. Um, but yeah, so and then the other thing is the draw, So I see both of those.
Okay, so for me, overbowing, it could be a lot of different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're shooting something that is way too heavy, because it's usually that's the case. But it can also be um, just shooting just a little bit too much weight with bad form,
Yeah,
because even a little bit too much weight, I'm talking about 2-3 pounds here or there extra, if you have bad form, over time will really, really do some damage. And a lot of weight with bad form is even worse.
hmm
So if you're not comfortable with the weight that you're pulling, sooner or later, something's going to go wrong. You're either going to wind up sore, you're not going to be able to draw back. And I don't know, Jonathan, if you knew about these tests when way back in the day, but this is how we used to tell if someone could actually draw the weight back. Um, I have two tests. And the first thing that I tell people is, and anybody can do this, is that you have to be able to sit down on a chair, back flat, feet off the ground, very important, and be able to draw the bow back straight and to anchor. And I have them do it 3 times in a row. Because if you can do it without struggling, anybody can get lucky and be like, oh, one, two. And the third time, they usually break down because they can't use their legs for muscle or whatever. Um, the other thing that I usually tell people is, if your draw line, when you're drawing back, if at any time, I don't care how long you've been shooting, if your draw line starts like this, you're already in trouble. If your draw line, even worse, starts like this, you're in worse trouble. You don't want to do these sort of things. And it's just simple. And it's not a matter of, oh, well, I should be able to do this. I have seen guys who bench 300 in the gym who can't draw back a 40-pound bow if they don't do it the right way.
yeah,
They can muscle it a couple of times, But eventually, you're going to get tired too early, and you're going to, that lack of form, your lack of alignment is going to wind up hurting something else. Because there's a way when you draw back to sit everything in place so it's bone on bone contact, you're not straining any muscles, and you're not making anything feel weird. And when you feel weird, it's because you're straining something. You may not even realize it, but your body's trying to tell you. When you do that long enough, you'll start to get breakdown somewhere. And just like if you have something with a chains and a links in a chain, and if you start pulling, the weakest link is the one that breaks first. Usually, your weakest link is somewhere in your joints, and usually it's the shoulder. Sometimes, for some people, it's in their neck because they load up their shoulders like this, and then all of a sudden, all that tension, when they start to break down, one shoulder's going down like this. It's not because they're learning to relax all of a sudden. It's because they're ripping something up. So that's a thing you really, really got to be concerned about. And it all starts with, are you set up with the right bow? And Jonathan, when people come to you to get a new bow, whatever, or even they come to walk into the shop with their own bow and they want to get something else, do you ever look at the one they have or say, what weight do you want to pull? And then they say some crazy number at you and you're like, are you kidding?
All the time. I tell them, like, listen, if that's what you really want, I will set that up for you. But do you hate yourself? Do you not like your shoulders? Because if you don't, I'll do it. But otherwise, it's not necessary. You don't need it. You don't, like, I get it. These companies have all these bows that are 80 pounds, and one specific one that now has 90 pounds. I'm sorry if I piss you off when I say this. That is not necessary. 70 pounds is not necessary. I've killed more deer, and yes, part of it was about uh, you know, the animal being there. Then, but I've gotten more deer with my 60-pound bow than I ever have with my 70. And
Just like me, my biggest deer was with a 45-pound recurve.
yeah, and
I'm,
it's not that I can't draw the 70. I can do that all day long. But it's really not necessary. I've gotten over 25 deer with a 60-pound bow. Trust me, the arrow goes straight through if you're good. If you put
and
the effort,
also,
it
yeah.
will be there.
Also, here's the other thing: when you're cold, your ability to draw is a lot less weight. Let me tell you. So if you think
Yeah.
that you're going to draw a 90-pound bow cold, it's not going to happen. And when you're nervous, it's even harder to draw.
Mm-hmm.
And worse yet, you're nervous. It's hard to draw because you're like this, and you don't realize that you're starting to collapse because you always got to be holding steady. Almost impossible, because if that's one extra thing that you have to think about, and I know we say it till we're blue in the face, it's not worth it. I don't care if the next guy in line next to you is shooting a brand new 80-pound bow and he's got Mr. Macho going on. Mr. Macho will be seeing a therapist in a few weeks. Maybe mental, most likely physical, maybe both.
Yeah.
But you don't want that for yourself.
Look at target shooters, right? In competition, we're shooting max 60 pounds. My indoor setup is literally 50 pounds. I know guys that shoot 40-pound indoor setups. And you know what? They put it in the X every single time. There's no doubt they're putting it in a spot that small every time at 20 yards. If they can do it with a 40-pounder, why do you have to do it with 80? You don't have to.
Exactly. And it's like, it may look good on paper, it may look good to impress people, but it's not going to help you at all.
No.
And if anything, like I said, down the road, it's going to really mess you up. And people who've got young, especially this, young developing kids, don't push your kids into a 60 or 70-pound bow the minute that you think they're able to handle it, because it's going to do them some bad damage on those young joints early in life. I had one person tell me, well, I want him to get used to it early. This way he'll be able to do it for the rest of his life. I'm like, you want him to end his career shooting very early is what you want, because he doesn't have the form discipline to be able to handle that. And he's outbowed. I mean, that thing is too heavy for him.
Yeah.
And that could be a 50-pound bow for some people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's a personal choice. And if you don't make the right one, you could wind up in a lot of serious trouble for it.
Mm-hmm.
So our question comes from a guy named David C., and he's from Houston, Texas. And he said that last season he bought himself a brand new 80-pound bow. I won't mention the brand. Just figure out for yourself who makes 80s these days. Anyway, he bought himself a brand new 80-pound bow, was able to shoot it for about a month, and then started to feel shoulder pain. So he didn't pick it up again. Pain went slightly away throughout the whole off season. Apparently, this is one of those people who doesn't shoot year round. Kind of takes you there. And when he picked up his bow last week, dude, you're picking up your bow in June. He couldn't draw it back more than 2 inches, and then he had to give up. He went, I'm summarizing here, but he went to see his physical therapist, who immediately sent him to an orthopedist. Turns out he has tore his rotator cuff in 3 different places.
Oof.
All right. For those of you who don't know what that's like, rotator cuffs are painful when you get 1 tear. 3? Oh boy. So he's asking what he should do. He had corrective surgery. Why does this sound like he had the corrective surgery like a week ago and he wants to get started shooting already? I get it. You're so close to season. Fine. I don't want to buy another bow, but I don't think I can lower my bow low enough in order for it to work. I know the brand he's mentioning, you can't go more than 5 turns, and if you do, the bow's going to come apart. And lowering it 5 turns is probably going to drop it max 10 pounds.
Yep.
So what are you going to do then? It's not going to work. So, all right. First of all, I feel for the guy, because a lot of times when I hear about these sort of things, people don't know any better. They know from what their friends, whatever, and they always think it's not going to happen to me. Well, in this case, it did happen to him. So let's not worry about how he got there. Let's worry about what he can do. So obviously, if you have surgery or something like that, or it's a minor tear, you're going to need physical therapy to help you strengthen it up again. The worst thing you can do is start shooting in a way that puts pressure on that bad area, and you wind up in bigger trouble than you were before. Because if you just had a minor tear and you're trying to rehabilitate yourself and you do the wrong movements or put the wrong pressure, you can make it a lot worse. But let's just say he had his surgery, but he wants to build up strength. Obviously, he's not going to pull back an 80-pound bow. So, Jonathan, where would you start with this guy?
Well, as far as the bow is concerned, I'd say, okay, go to your bow shop and ask them to order you new limbs. Lower the weight as much as you can, because I personally would say go the lowest possible. That is still legal hunting weight, especially for your shoulder right now and this season.
In the hopes that you can even work up to that lowest weight that they make available for it.
Yeah. And then there are physical therapy things you can do. I am not a physiotherapist, so please take that for how it is. I am an ex-professional ballet dancer, so I know a lot about the body and kinesiology. When people come to me with this, I ask about the kinds of pain they're feeling. If they're doing physical therapy, I ask, and there are certain exercises I personally do for myself to keep my joints good. And yeah, so I ask about if they've heard about something called IYTs. That's a very light, low impact exercise. Also, it's funny we're talking about this today. We did not plan this. I didn't realize we were doing this. This company right here, Axio,
Mhm.
I found them the first time I went to Vegas. When I go to shows, I am always looking for things to train. You always find all the
Something.
equipment, right? All the stuff for the bows, the bow, the sights, all that stuff. You don't really see much for training for archery. You see a lot for guns, but not so much for archery. So when I found this company at the Vegas show, I was very intrigued. This thing was developed by a physiotherapist. He blew out his shoulder doing playing tennis, I believe, and he went to a few physiotherapists, and one of them made him worse. The others didn't really do anything for him. So he came up with this device, and it's literally called the Axio Trainer. Um, there's a half-pound weight in this tube here, and the whole idea of it is to get it to the ball to rotate around. So you get it moving, and those small movements work because of the centrifugal force. It feels like about 15 pounds, but it's zero impact, and you can work all these muscles here, works your core, works your chest, to help with things like that. And yeah, I'm not sponsored by these guys. I just use it and it works. Um, so yeah, you can check that out, axiotrainer.com.
So there's a lot of stuff that you can use, okay? Some of which you probably already have at home,
Yep.
or that you can get on Amazon for a couple of bucks.
Mhm.
So they have TheraBands that you can buy. They have like a kit that's like $20, and it comes with from very weak to very strong.
Mhm.
The reason I suggest something like that, you have to work your way up gradually. Do not try to go cold turkey from being hurt to going to the heaviest band. You're
Nope.
going to hurt yourself again. And again, like Jonathan said, we are not physical therapists. We don't give you advice on what you should do. At the same time, I'm going to say there are some people on YouTube who claim to be, and I don't care if they are, no one should be giving advice to you if they're not consulting with you directly, meaning they don't see what your individual case is. And you're just taking advice from some video that, for all you know, could be doing more damage to you than it's worth. And that seems to be a very big trend these days for the fitness and archery sort of thing to come up. And all these guys like, do this to straighten you out. I've seen some of the dumbest things in the world. So before you go getting suckered by one of those things, and some of the guys are well-meaning,
Mhm.
don't. Just stop. Don't. Go simple. If you have a therapist that you're working with, which you probably do, say, hey, can I use TheraBands? Can I add this? This way you're not waiting for that once a week or twice a week therapy session when you're going to see the guy. You can do that in between. Light movements. Nothing radical. Depending on what type of injury you have, you're not going to want to do something that exaggerates the movement that got you there in the first place, and you wind up hurting yourself even worse.
Mhm.
So TheraBands is something that you can start really, really light and work your way up. Like Jonathan said, you should probably go and prepare yourself to get the lowest poundage limbs available that are legal for where you hunt, if this is a hunting sort of situation. So if the lowest that you can get is 50-pound limbs, get 50s.
Yep.
There's nothing to be embarrassed about.
Not at all.
Get those now. I can hear that I'm tired because I had a rough week. Get those now because you're thinking, but by the end of by the time season's starting, I should be ready. Like, no, you'll be lucky to be able to shoot 50 by the time season starts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get them now, at least limbs don't show up in the mail next day. And most shops do not stock them. It could take them 4 weeks, sometimes even 6 weeks before you get them. So they're probably not going to show up right away. So order them now, be prepared. Or buy another bow that you could pass on to somebody else that's a much lighter weight, or that you keep as a spare. Because trust me, there are going to be days when you cannot shoot and you want a lighter bow. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
My personal prescription for people is to do one of two things. The first thing you could do, and probably the simplest, is to go online, go to Amazon, I don't even know if they sell them, and buy an AccuBow. Because an AccuBow is a TheraBand on a bow frame. And you can crank it up from like, I think 5 pounds all the way up to like 60 pounds or something like that. May even go a little bit heavier depending on how tight you put that band.
Yep.
And you can practice drawing without hurting yourself. And more importantly, it allows you to practice firing because you can actually hook up a D loop and a release to it and all that. Practice firing so you don't get out of practice with it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they come with these little frames. You can stick your cell phone on there, download the app for it, and make it fun because you can shoot deer. You can do all kinds of things with it. Doing rehabilitation exercise is boring. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it's not. But something like an AccuBow can keep you entertained. And like Jonathan said, he's not sponsored by those guys. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm good. Trust me. I'm not getting paid by those guys that suggest an AccuBow. I've had them since the very first ones came out, and I use it for my students to help them on their form, to help them get stronger. But occasionally I have to use it for somebody who gets hurt.
Yep.
And it really, really does work. I wouldn't be suggesting it if it didn't. The other thing you can do, and this is the thing that some people are not going to like it when I say it, but when I've ever cared about what people think, buy a recurve. Get yourself a 40-pound recurve. 40 pounds recurve. Just pick up what I'm throwing down here. Gee, that sounds so urban, but I'm not going to even say anything about that. Whatever. Here's the deal with a 40-pound recurve. When you pull back a 40-pound recurve, it doesn't sound like much, right? Oh, you feel every bit of it. And you could wind up hunting with the 40-pound recurve or buy a 25-pound recurve. And same thing. Learn how to shoot with it. You'll find that even after you rehabilitate and all that, you might like shooting the recurve a lot. And you'll wind up shooting it for relaxation, whatever. You may never go back to a compound bow after you get used to shooting a recurve. I know people whose reason for not going back to a compound, they got injured, they shoot a recurve, and they never went back. Because it's simpler, more relaxing, whatever your reason is. Try a recurve. See if that works. Whatever you do, above all, and this is what I wrote this big, drawn out letter to this guy when he sent this to me. I said, whatever you do, you're going to a therapist, you're doing all that. Jonathan, what's the one thing that this guy should do as part of his rehabilitation regimen that you think I'm going to say?
I honestly have no idea what you're going to say right now.
Jonathan didn't take his Wheaties for reading minds, but I'll go ahead and just throw it out there anyway. What I was going to say is you have to add the one thing, and this is very important. Maybe you've never done it before. You got to work with a coach or somebody who can watch what you're doing. Because if you may not notice it, but you in your rickety form, because you're hurting everywhere, might be pulling off sideways, might be pulling and putting pressure. Your elbow might be staying out here instead of going back. A number of things can happen, which you're not going to see unless somebody tells you and physically adjusts you and says, here. So you have to pay for 2 or 3 lessons, whatever it is. It is worth its weight in gold. And at the very least, get yourself a tripod, put your phone on the stand, record yourself shooting just so you can see what's wrong. But if you've never had coaching in the first place, you're probably not going to know what's wrong. Mm-hmm. That's why I suggest getting help from somebody so that they can see you do that and help you progress. Because you can't always just go to drawing straight back. It's not possible. It has to be gradual, lightweight, so that you may start out here at first, but you can wind up better and back to your normal form by the time you get to your end of your course of therapy and treatment. So accept the fact that this is not going to be a next day fix. It just isn't.
It's not.
There are people who get tendonitis in their elbows and keep shooting with that, and then they wind up why their elbow is so bad the whole year. Well, in cases of just tendonitis, if that's what they tell you is wrong, sometimes the only thing to get away from that is to let it rest and heal. And then you can start shooting again. But if you keep doing things like this, you're going to wind up doing more damage. So get somebody to help you. Get proper equipment to help you out with this, I think is a big thing. Anything else you can think of that he should be able to do?
Well, also think about it like this: I'm a professional archer. Every professional archer I know, they're all really good, right? They have their own coaches. They
Mm-hmm.
have guys watching them. They have people watching them. If we have people watching us, why wouldn't you, who aren't half as good as what we can do with a bow, why wouldn't you have someone else watching you?
Yeah.
And yes, your coaches might not be Angel. It might not be someone really, really good. But if if they are an adequate coach, they will be able to help you fix your form and things like that. Because even guys like me, guys like other really good shooters and girls, um, we develop bad habits, and those bad habits can literally hurt you. And then if you try and push through that, well, guess what? Because something is hurting, now something else is compensating, and guess what? That's going to get hurt. So it's just a downward spiral, and it's just going to get worse and worse. So don't ever try and push through the pain. It's like you said, get someone to watch you and see what you're doing. Um,
Stop.
that's really great advice.
I wasn't telling you to stop. I was telling my alarm to stop. But anyway, because that was going off in the background. No, you're absolutely right. And most important, I would say with this is very simple. You have to work with a coach who's going to be honest with you. Because if he doesn't see you progressing, or if he thinks that you're not happy with how fast you're going, tough. He's got to be able to tell you that. Because especially in the case of getting better, recovering from an injury, if someone lies to you, you can get more hurt than you were to begin with. So they've got to be upfront with you. Like, look, man, you're going to have to stay on this draw weight for a little while longer. You may get to the end of the season and find out I still can't draw a 50-pound bow. Possible. Be ready for anything. And then don't fret about it. Improvise and find a way around it. Do something else. Use a different type of bow. Use a much lower weight. Whatever you got to do. That's what I'm saying. Get used to shooting a recurve, because you can hunt with a 40-pound recurve. And I can guarantee you that depending on how much movement you have and all that's different for everybody, more than likely 40 pounds is not out of the range of impossibilities to be able to shoot in a couple of months.
No.
And by the way, if you think you're hurting now, wait till the cold weather comes. You're really going to hurt. You just had surgery, my friend. That's not going to be fun. So
Nope.
I'm not here to sugarcoat stuff for you. I'm trying to help you and telling you how things really are. So that's what you need to do. Pain and injury is something that everyone deals with. You also got to start thinking, why did I get here? Was it because I was trying to be too macho and tried to pull a weight that's too heavy for me? Or deep down, was there always something wrong with my form and the shoulder just gave out? Very possible. It can always happen that way. You have to, that's why I always say everyone should see a coach every now and then, just to see what's going on. Diagnose, let me know what's happening, so you can see what the problems are. And worst case scenario, if you don't have any coaches in your area, and there are places like that where there's just no coaches around, videotape yourself from 3 different angles, from the rear, from the side, and from a little bit off to the side, but further forward. And send the video to a coach that does that sort of coaching online. I know 3 or 4 people, I do it occasionally, who can analyze your shot, see what's going on, and make suggestions on how to fix it. It's not that hard. And believe me, we can spot things in just a couple of shots that it'd take you weeks to figure out on your own. You usually try to figure it out, and it's like struggle to do it, and it just doesn't work out right. So that's what we're going to say about doing this. If you're recovering from an injury, you have to do it at your own pace. You can't rush your body in recovering. You have to be willing to accept, maybe I'm not going to get to where I want to be in time. But the end goal is to be able to shoot again. Not to shoot the same thing, because you may never be able to shoot the same thing depending on the type of damage you have. But you want to be able to shoot comfortably again. And that's the main thing that we want to say here. Comfortably. That's what starts a lot of people down the wrong path. If you're not shooting comfortably, you're doing something wrong and you're going to wind up hurting yourself. And believe me, I've seen it all the time. And the thing is that I always tell this story, but I'll just say it one more time because I haven't turned blue in the face yet. One of my girls, she's at the time she was 12, 13 or something like that. And there were guys down at the range, 80-pound bows. I kid you not. But she's been with me since she's 5, and she knows her form perfectly. Let's just say some money changed hands between her and some guy who challenged her to pull his bow back. And she's able to draw a 70-pound bow with no problem. She can draw an 80-pound bow. I don't think that she'll make a habit out of it, but she can do it because she has proper form and technique. But she embarrassed the guy because she was cleaner drawing it back, and and the draw length was like long on her by 4 inches. And she still drew it back perfectly and was able to hold it twice as long as this dude could hold back his own bow. That says something. That says that clean form and proper technique will help you all the time to do things. In this case, she could do it a couple of times. This dude had just bought the bow, couldn't draw it back more than 2 or 3 times without getting winded and almost falling down on himself. And a couple of days later, blowing up the bow because he dry fired it by doing something stupid. But, like I said, it's not what it looks like. It's what gets done. So you don't make a big deal about, what's other people going to think? If you're worried about what other people are going to think while you're trying to rehabilitate yourself and fix yourself up, you got the wrong kind of friends. Don't talk to them like that. They just don't care about you. Care about yourself. Number one. That's it. It's the only one that matters. You have to take care of yourself, get back to where you need to be, and then from there, if you do get the opportunity to be back shooting normal again, find out what you can do to stay that way so you don't wind up in this boat again. That's pretty much all I got to say about injuries.
I tell all my kids that I tell them, listen, if something hurts or something is hurting you at full draw or shooting or whatever, let me know, because it should not hurt. The only thing that should happen after you shoot maybe 30, 40, 50 arrows is muscles getting sore. Soreness and hurt are 2 completely different things. If there's a pain, that is not good. If there is a soreness, okay, you're working muscles. That's fine. But if there's a stabbing pain, whatever, something's up. Let me know so I can diagnose it and figure it out and fix it on you. Because I tell my kids, I don't want to see you guys hurt. I care about you guys. I've known you guys forever, so I don't want to see you guys hurt. I don't want to see that for anyone in archery. I hate seeing people get hurt. So yeah, if something's happening and you don't have a coach near you, message me, message Angel. We'll gladly try and help you from over the phone.
Yeah. And the thing is that like he just mentioned, soreness and pain are 2 different things. Soreness will come from utilizing a muscle or doing a movement that you don't normally do. And it's expected because as the muscle trains itself, it's going to hurt a little bit after a certain number of repetitions. But sheer pain is a much different thing. And that's a sign. That's your body trying to warn you something is wrong. And you have to pay. Some people are like, I'll just endure the pain. Yeah, you're stupid. You can't do that. Your body's telling you that for a reason. So you want to make sure, pay attention to what it is. Believe it or not, I'm going to say about 90% of injuries are caused by people's form that was leaning too much on one thing or another. And actually, some people, their bows blow up before they ever had a chance to hurt themselves, because the most common thing I see is people drawing back weight that's too much for them in the wrong form, and they do one of these numbers, and they don't realize, but instead of pulling straight back, they're pulling like this out to the side, and they derail the bow. And then it just blows up. And folks, for those of you who don't know this, cams aren't built like they used to be. So now they're designed to fold and crush. So if you're overbowed, you're going to pull funny like that. You're also going to do one of these sky draw things like this sometimes. Now, people confuse the sky draw for what they call the archer's draw. And you'll see a lot of people do it where they're actually not sky drawing, but it looks like it, but they're hand stimulates, and what they're doing is they're just looping the bow like that. A lot of people draw that way. I don't teach my students to draw that way, but if that's what floats your boat, hey, whatever. It doesn't aid you in drawing at all. It just looks different, helps you keep position. Some people teach it. I personally don't. Straight level arrow through the hand is the only way to go. But if you vary from that, you're going to wind up hurting. Hurting is natural. When I'm shooting full time, I'm doing about 200 to 225 shots per night. After 225 shots, the first week you get back to doing it, oh, you're going to hurt. You're going to be sore. But the thing is, I know where I'm going to be sore. I'm usually sore right here in my back muscle on this one side, nowhere else. If I start to feel pain here, if I start to feel pain down here, I'm definitely doing something wrong. And then we're going to go to the videotape and see what I'm doing. Balance has a lot to do with it. But again, like we were saying, you have to be willing to accept that you probably need help in getting back to where you were. And you may have to work with something other than what you intended, because you may not get back to the point that you were before the injury. So take it with some stride. If you don't know, or you think something's wrong and you want some advice on like what we may think is going on, email us, whatever, call the shop, call me, whatever. People know how to get through to me. We're doing an event on the 11th. Come to the shop. We'll get into that in a minute. And hey, we're happy to help people over there anyway. But that'll do it for that archery injuries. I had one other listener question. I'm just going to get into it briefly, but it's never a brief topic, but we're going to try. Okay. We're about 35 minutes into this, so we're going to not do more than 10 minutes on this, because God help us if we do, it's going to go really, really wrong. But so another listener was saying that he listens to a bunch of different podcasts. Okay. And one of them is really into very light arrows, while another one is into very heavy arrows. Okay. And he wants to know where he should be. Okay. There are two different camps. I know you've heard this one before, Jonathan, right?
Oh, yeah. I was talking
and he's afraid to say anything.
I was literally talking to this with someone also again yesterday.
So the heavy arrow debate is, there are people out there who believe in extremes and that any arrow should be at least 650 grams or better to be an adult arrow. That's what these people call them. They're adult arrows. And then there are other people who believe you should be shooting like a 350 or 400 grain arrow. Each one has its disadvantages and advantages. For me, the light side, for a minimum for people, is 450 grains, 425 grains, depending on what poundage you're shooting. And that's for somebody who's shooting like 65, 60 pounds. I'll go with the 425 pounds, 425 grains. If you're shooting in the 75s and 80s and you think you can shoot a 425 grain arrow, God go with you, because something bad's going to happen. My personal opinion. Again, other people think other things. One thing I can tell you about light arrows, yes, they will fly flatter and faster, but they are also very loud when they go off from a hunting perspective, and they do a lot of damage to your bow because all that energy is not going into the arrow. It comes back. That's why the bows get so loud. The heavier the arrow, it absorbs the energy, and then as it goes out, none of it really comes back to the bow. But if you have a light arrow that can't absorb all that energy, what happens? You start putting stress on the bow.
Boom.
Boom. It go boom. It can only do it once. That's it. Before you have to buy cams and limbs and strings and essentially buy yourself a hole at the bow, because that's what it's going to wind up being. But heavy arrows are less likely to blow up your bow. Don't get me wrong. But you got to know your range, and you got to realize that your arc is not going to be straight. It's going to be more of wee, like that. You're going to get an arc in the arrow. So as long as you're sighted in and you know what your limits are, there's nothing wrong with it. But Jonathan, do you think that a heavy arrow makes a bow a lot quieter?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. when I do my traditional archery, I always use relatively heavier arrows, and if I can definitely tell the difference between a light traditional arrow and a heavy traditional arrow. My bow will sound like a guitar on steroids when I use a too light of an arrow. When I don't, the animals don't hear a thing.
Yeah.
Neither does anyone else.
And the thing that I'll say about heavy arrows as opposed to light arrows, yes, they're fast, but there's an unknown for me and something that I can't shoot them that light because in the back of my head, I'm always wondering, is the deer going to hear that arrow when it goes off because it's a boing when it goes off because it's just very loud, or is the arrow going to have taken one too many bends and blow up on me? And I don't need that in the back of my head. I just don't want to worry about that. So generally,
Nope.
I lean towards the heavier side. I think I've cut back in recent years. Um, I was once when we were in aluminum arrows back in the '80s, everybody was shooting 700 grain arrows because it was just what it was. But up until about a year or two ago, I was shooting 675, 700s, and I can shoot out to 100 yards. Don't get me wrong, but I know what I'm doing with that, and I've constantly practiced it, so I know what to anticipate. You could be shooting in the woods, 3D practice, and not realize that that arc is so bad, what you think is a straight shot winds up hitting trees or branches above. That happens in real life too. So you got to know what you're doing. In recent years, I've cut down. I think now my arrow is about 525. Oh, it's so light. But 525, it's still relatively heavy, but it's normal for me. And I shoot that thing out to 80, 85, and I don't even flinch. It's fine. 100, I got to think about it a little bit more. But it's a heavier arrow. So it's really a personal choice. They tell you there's an old saying, speed kills. And sometimes the faster something's going, if it's very light, it doesn't produce all the kinetic energy you need on a deer. Yes and no. I always use two examples. What would you rather be hit with? Me throwing a golf ball at you, not a golf ball, a ping pong ball at you at 70 miles an hour. It's going to sting a little, I think. Or me throwing a baseball at you at 70 miles an hour. Which one do you think is going to do more damage? Use your own imagination. You know what I mean? I'm not the one to. I used to be very big proponent of heavier size. Now these days with the materials we have, I'm really could go either way. But I would say it's your own personal choice and really depends on how much you're practicing. Medium range, 450 for me is fine. If you're in that range and you're not shooting some crazy weight, you're okay. If you're shooting a crazy weighted bow and you think you're going to shoot it with a lightweight arrow, not going to happen.
Nope.
You get people coming into the shop still, Jonathan, asking, I don't know how heavy I should be, or they even not care how heavy the arrow is.
Um, some of them do. I actually was talking to a guy yesterday about this, and he was like, I don't know, should I be at 600 grains or should I go lighter? I'm like, well, it depends on the bow. It really does, and what your preference is.
Yep.
I use the analogy of boxing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Featherweights, they are a lot faster, and they'll get a lot more hits in. But what would you rather be hit with, a featherweight or a heavyweight?
Yeah.
You know, a heavyweight slower, yeah, but one hit you're down. It might take 10 from that featherweight, but one heavyweight hitter will put you down, no problem.
And it can
So,
also be very subjective because if you're just hunting locally in the Northeast, you're hunting thin-skinned whitetail and bears and stuff like that.
mm-hmm.
You don't need much. But if you're planning on going to the West and you want to hunt elk or something like that, may need something a little heavier. And if you're going to Africa or Australia, you need something a lot heavier. Probably need a gun, but you need something a lot heavier. Trust me, if you go down there and one of those PHs looks at you and you're shooting some rinky dink setup, they're not going to let you use it. They're going to be like, you what? Only because I've done this before, people. And I came down there prepared, but someone else in my party was not. And the PH just looked at him and was like, really, mate? You're going to use that thing? You think you're going to use one of those arrows? He'll take it in his skin. It'll go in a 1/4 inch and he'll pick it out and laugh at you. Yeah, when you're hunting water buffalo, they will laugh at you if you shoot them with something with a very, very thin weight, whatever. That's why those guys are standing behind you with guns, because that thing's going to find out where the arrow went and come after you. So it's really subjective. If you're going somewhere where it's dangerous game, you're going to have to shoot something a little bit more stout. But if you're just hunting locally, you really don't need any of that sort of stuff. And for those of you who like the light arrow game, there is, if you're hunting something like axis deer or Coues deer or some other deer that makes people think that it's on like some non-prescription drug because they're fraidy, they're freaky, and they move before the arrow even gets there, yeah, then you're going to need to shoot a light arrow that's stiff enough, but fast enough to get there before that animal can move around. Because I challenge anyone to try to shoot a 700 grain arrow at an axis deer and let me know how that goes. By the time your arrow leaves the bow, that animal's a 1/4 mile that way because they're so fast. So again, speed, it's based on what you need it for. There's no need to get crazy about it. And you have to be flexible with it. There's no such thing as all the way right on one side or all the way wrong on the other side. It's a personal preference. What works for you, and more importantly, what you can make work the best for you.
Exactly.
Just because it works for somebody else does not mean it's going to work for you. I love the Ranch Fairy. I'm friends with him on Facebook. But let me tell you something. He's heavy into preaching. Everything's got to be this heavy stuff. He hunts a ranch. He runs a ranch where you're shooting relatively short shots at animals that have thick skins, because those boars down there, it's like a tank. So that's what they're built for. You know what I mean? But that's situational. So he's prescribing things like that for everyone because in that situation, that's what they need. Use your head. Do research. Worst comes to worst, go to the shop and ask Jonathan. He'll be happy to sit down with you for an hour and talk about the goods and the bads of light and heavy arrows. Yeah. And if you happen to go to tournaments, okay, big tournaments, then go find a very tall fellow over there whose name is Tim Gillingham and get him started on an arrow conversation. Bring a chair.
Bring a chair and a few meals because it's going to be hours.
But it'll be the most information you've ever gotten and the most valuable talk you'll ever have. But like I said, it's personal preference. I wanted to throw that in here because I had more than a few people asking me about that in the last couple of weeks. And I'm like, I'll get to it. And I keep forgetting to get to it. Now I got into it. So there. All right. So a couple of things to catch up on. We are having the event at the shop July 11th. What time are we going to start that day, Jonathan? What, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock?
Yep.
Okay.
It is a Saturday if anyone needs to know.
Yep. Call the shop if you're planning coming down there, and I will have the lab radar with me. I'll have my printers with me. Jonathan will have his lab radar over there. We'll be able to do a couple of people at a time. It's completely free. We'll set you up, get you going, and get you done. If you want to join us for that, if you need help on your shooting, if you want to have your bow looked at, people, now is the time, I'll tell you, because we're end of June, beginning of July. We're about to hit it.
Yep. It's getting crazy.
Take advantage of it now because you won't be able to take advantage of it later. Once we cross into that mid-July, early August, it's gangbusters, and it's almost impossible to do this sort of thing then. So if you want help, come down that day. We'll be there most of the day, helping as many people as we can. Ask anyone who knows me, when I go down there, I usually spend the entire day there, and I got kind of a drive to get home. But as long as there's people who need help, I'll stick around. No problem. Jonathan's there. You have good food across the street, good music across the street. It's all relatively easy. It's a great ride for the family. I would say just call us up and let us know that you're coming, so we have an idea of how many people we're going to get. Send us a message on Facebook. Send us a message on Instagram. Hey, I want to come down to the event. Whatever. It looks like at this point I'll have some of those challenge coins that I mentioned a couple weeks ago. So, like I said, people who may need something like that, I'll make sure that I have some of those available. It's supposed to be in any day now. So yeah, everything's coming together for the end of the month, and the 11th when we're going to do this, and we'll see how it goes from there. In the meantime, just like these two folks who emailed us about the questions that we went over in the show today, feel free to contact us if you have a couple of questions. Anything, nothing is too crazy.
Nope,
You know,
nothing too crazy.
I've heard the crazy before. I constantly hear the crazy.
He's told me some of the crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. If you have a bow that you don't know what's going on, bring it to us. Maybe we can take a look and see what's happening. And if you have kids who are just getting into it and they want to get their first archery set or something like that, or they want to try it for the first time, it's a great place for them to try it the very first time.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah. So all in all, it will be a good time down there. And again, that's July 11th. It's a Saturday, and we start around 10 a.m. Lots to do over there, like I said. So in closing, I'm going to say, if you want to stay informed about new episodes, be sure to follow us on Instagram. Jonathan's is on there. Mine is on there. Subscribe to the show for your podcast. This way you know that another one's been uploaded. I have other podcasts that still have to be submitted, and actually like 3 of them were put up into and preloaded. I just forgot to hit the buttons for when they're going to get scheduled release. It's been a rough week. Like I said, we'll have more and more stuff up there. I want to try to record something on video when we're over there. So lots of new stuff coming. Jonathan, anything else you want to bring up?
That's all.
Where can people find out about that Axio thing?
So the website is axiotrainer.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can check that out. There is a guy on YouTube that uses it quite often. I forget his name though. But yeah, axiotrainer.com.
Okay, great. So that's all for now. Like we say, it's never goodbye. It's until we meet you again. So for now, stay safe and shoot straight, and we'll see you later.